watching this video, chances are you know a kiddo that is a late talker, has a diagnosed language delay, or a diagnosis that involves difficulties with communication in general, and you want to help support them increase their communication and language skills. Well, hopefully, you have heard of Augmentative and Alternative Communication, or AAC. But if not, don't worry. Just keep listening. First and foremost, I want to give you a definition of AAC. AAC stands for Augmentative and Alternative Communication. So let's break that down. Augmentative is a way to add on or supplement existing speech. Now, opposite of that is alternative. That is what we use when there is no speech or it is non-functional speech. So as you can see from those two components of AAC, the important thing to remember and to know is that all kids can benefit from AAC. Both those kids that are already speaking as well as those that are not yet speaking. The next thing I want to share with you guys is all the different forms of AAC that there are. So AAC is comprised of many different things, including gestures such as pointing or reaching or things like that, as well as sign language is another form of AAC. Objects representing activities or needs or wants, those are other forms of AAC, as well as pictures. So picture schedules, pictures that may be used in picture exchange, pictures on a communication board, those are all AAC. And then also communication boards in general, communication choice boards, core boards, fringe boards, etc. Those are AAC. Another thing that is AAC, one that is often thought of as AAC, is the speech generating devices or the apps that many of our students use. Those are those things that change as the students press a button, and they're also able to provide some voice output for the student. One thing that all of those AAC examples have in common is that they often use specific vocabulary. This vocabulary is research-driven, it's research-proven to be the most effective in teaching beginning communicators and our AAC users to communicate for the most functional, effective, and efficient way. This vocabulary that I'm talking about is called core vocabulary. We all know that there are so many different words that we use throughout our day. So how are we supposed to choose which words to teach our kids first? Especially our kiddos with complex communication needs. This seems like an impossible task. While it is nearly impossible to know what words our kiddos with complex communication needs, or any kiddo, would choose as their first words, thankfully we have research so that we can know what words are used most frequently. That group of words is often referred to as core vocabulary. Now, core vocabulary words actually make up approximately 80% of what we say all day, every day. And when you think about it that way, it makes sense to teach these words first. These are the words that kiddos hear before they start talking. So it makes sense that these would be the words that they would use first when they start to talk or communicate. Here are some other facts about core vocabulary. Compared to all the words available to us, the words that are considered core vocabulary are in a pretty small group. There are a variety of parts of speech, including verbs, pronouns, and prepositions, and these words are also used across a variety of different environments and routines. So, given all of these factors, it makes sense that these are the words that not only make up the majority of the words we use daily, but also the words that are most important to provide students access to for communication at the very basic level and beyond. This is an example of a core vocabulary communication board. There are many different versions of core vocabulary communication boards. Some have more words, some have less words. None of them are wrong. So now that you know a little bit more about the background of core vocabulary, I want to teach you a little bit about the opposite of core, and that's fringe vocabulary. Fringe vocabulary is the rest of the words that we use throughout our day. If core vocabulary makes up about 80% of what we say every day, fringe vocabulary makes up the other 20%. Fringe vocabulary is also more limited in where and when we can use it, and it consists mostly of nouns or labels for items. This is an example of a fringe vocabulary board that could be used in a classroom for a calendar activity. As you can see, the majority of the words are nouns and labels. While core vocabulary is used more frequently, fringe vocabulary is what we need to use to make our communication more specific. They're both important. I often think of this graphic when describing the interaction between core and fringe vocabulary. We can and should use core and fringe vocabulary together throughout the day within all communication. Now that you know more about AAC, core vocabulary, and fringe vocabulary, you might have some additional questions about how to use these ways to communicate. Well, keep tuning in and make sure you subscribe to SENSEable Literacy because I have more videos coming on that exact topic.